Ace for Apricot, Chapter 18, Buckingham Palace. When they got outside, the rain had stopped and a bright, beautiful rainbow hung in the sky. It seemed to put Alf in a good mood, and it put a spring in his step. "I've got something else to show you," he said in between lighting up a cigarette. "You're going to be impressed," he bragged to Apricot. Apricot wanted to be impressed, but he wasn't often. Apricot had high standards. "I'm going to show you the most beautiful house in England," he said to Apricot, and he cocked his head curiously. Yet Apricot had seen a few nice houses in his time, but he didn't have a clue what Alf had in store. They walked through the park, and Apricot's heart leapt at the rare sight of a squirrel. It gave them a quizzical look as it scarpered up an enormous oak tree. "Bugger off," said Alf rudely, blowing smoke at the poor thing. He had little patience for squirrels, or any other animal for that matter. They carried on through the park, and Alf was kicking up leaves and conkers as he walked. To him they were just rubbish, but Apricot found them to be beautiful. When the dirty smoke cleared from his cigarette, Alf spoke up. "There she is," and Apricot could see a beautiful house in the distance. It was shimmering in the sun, and there were crowds of people milling about and taking photographs. The closer they got to the house, the bigger and more impressive it became. A man in a big furry hat came over to them. He'd seen the rustling in the bag, and he became curious. "What's that you've got in there?" he said, expecting the West. "It's apricot," said Alf, remembering Apricot's name for once. "It doesn't look much like a fruit to me," said the Queen's Guard. "It's a very big and very furry apricot, if you ask me," he said, taking a closer look. Apricot was very annoyed. He wanted to shout to the man, "I'm not a fruit, I'm Apricot, a classy, intelligent, kind-hearted guinea pig, not a wobbly, fuzzy fruit." Apricot lifted his head proudly, and he gave him a hard stare. The guard was flabbergasted. He had never seen a guinea pig at Buck House before, and he assumed that they didn't get about much. "I beg your pardon, sir," he said, and his cheeks blushed bright red. He looked just like a long bright match waiting to be struck, thought Apricot accurately, and Apricot's spirit lifted, and his annoyance subsided.